Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to talk about some interesting fields on the purchases and payables setup. So I have a previous video on my YouTube channel talk about some fields on the sales and receivable setup, but this video is for purchases and payables setup. So you could see most of the fields are similar, and also even the field, the name of the field is the same as the sales and receivable setup. But there's something like a combined special orders default. This one does not exist in the sales and receivable setup. So I'm just gonna pull the sales and receivable setup on my screen so we can take a look and just compare them side by side. Then you can see what's the difference between those fields on the sales and receivable and purchase and payable setup. So if I put them side by side, you can see like they all have this discount posting, so all discounts. So basically this field in the purchase and payable setup is like if you specify all discounts, then when you post a document, then purchase documents, then it will post to its individual purchase account and purchase invoice account and purchase purchase invoice discount account and purchase line discount account. So these accounts are talking about the general posting setup. So in the general posting setup, then you could see you will have the purchase account. So just scroll to the right a little bit. You can see you have the purchase account, you have the purchase line discount account, and you have the purchase invoice discount account. So these GL account may not be the same one. And so if you want, like if you select all accounts in the purchase and payable setup, which means like when you post the purchase documents, it will post to those individual discount account. So for the purchase line discount, it's going to post to this one. For the purchase invoice discount, it's going to post to the GL account in this column. If you select no discount, which means it will not post to the line discount account and invoice discount account, it will post to the purchase account for the discounts. So that's the best setup, I think the best practice, you want it to post it to its individual account. So then usually you will select all discounts instead of select no discounts. And so that way you can be more clear when you check your chart of accounts for the relevant discounts posted to different GL accounts. Okay, so receipt on invoice. This one, if you look at this, is for the sales and receivable setup. So you could see on the purchase and payable setup, it doesn't have the credit warnings, stock out warnings. The reason is like when you sell something on the sales document, it will check the customer credit limit and the overdue balance. So for on the purchase side, because you are purchased from your vendors, so usually you don't define a credit limit and overdue balance for your vendors. Your vendor will track that on you, but it's not like you will track that on your vendor. So that's why you don't have this credit warnings and you don't have the stock out warnings, because when you purchase something, you are purchasing from your vendors. It's not going out from your inventory, so it will have no stock out warning. On the sales and receivable setup, this is related to when you sell something. If you don't have inventory on hand, then it will give you a notification on the sales header. When you place the sales order, it will say your inventory is low. So then it gives that notification. But on the purchasing side, you can purchase whatever you want from your vendor as long as your vendor has those inventory. So that's why on the purchase and payable setup, you don't have stock out warning. But you see here on the sales and receivable setup, you have shipment and invoice. And the counterpart for the purchasing documents is return shipment on credit memo. So what it means is like, so actually this is a shipment on invoice. On the purchasing side, you only have receipt. You only receive and you invoice your purchase document. So if you want to receive from the purchase invoice for your inventory item, that's fine. So it will create the purchase receipts, and at the same time, it will create the purchase invoice. So it just create the two documents separately. So, but on the when you ship something, if you ship from your sales invoice for inventory items, like if you have this turned down, then it will create two documents. One is the posted sales shipment, another one is posted sales invoice. And if you don't have this turned down, it only creates one document, which is the posted sales invoice. It doesn't create the posted sales shipment. So, but for your warehouse worker, you may want to have a document for the shipment, and also have your finance people may want to have an invoice. So that's why you want the two documents. You have this, but on the purchasing side, you don't have like a receipt on invoice. You don't have that because like when if you even like you are receiving, usually you will not create a purchase invoice if usually you will not create a purchase invoice if you are place orders for inventory item. You will always create a purchase order, and then you send the order confirmation to your vendor, and then your vendor send you invoice. I don't think for the inventory item, if you are place a purchase order, you will create a purchase invoice, right? That doesn't make sense. So that's why you don't have that option for receipt on invoice, because what you usually do for inventory item, you usually create a purchase order instead of a purchase invoice. Okay, so this one, return receipt on credit memo, is the counterpart on the return shipment on credit memo. So if you have this turned down, then when you create a purchase credit memo for inventory item, when you post it, at the same time, it will post a purchase return shipment and a posted purchase credit memo. So it will post two documents. If you don't have this turned on, when you create a purchase credit memo for the inventory item, and when you post the purchase credit memo, it will only create one posted purchase credit memo. It does not create a posted purchase return shipment. You only have one document. And invoice rounding. So both this setup has invoice rounding, and this invoice rounding is using whatever the rounding precision you set up in the general ledger setup. So you could see there's an invoice rounding precision in the general ledger setup. So both on the sales and receivable setup and the purchase and payable setup, it's using that. And if you can take a look on the general ledger setup, you will have, if you look at the general tab under the general ledger setup, so you will have the invoice rounding precision. So it's using this invoice rounding precision you define here to apply the invoice rounding if you have that turned on. Otherwise, it's just whatever it's rounded to, it just use the rounding. It's not using that limitation for the invoice rounding. Okay, so that's for the invoice rounding. And then create item from item number. So in the sales and receivable setup, you also have the create item from item number. But you see on the purchasing side, it doesn't have default item quantity. It doesn't have this. So the purchase and payables doesn't have that. So what this in the sales and receivable setup does is like when you create a sales order, once you enter the sales line, if you have this turned on, it will default after you enter the item number on the sales line, it will default quantity to be 1. So usually most scenario you will not turn this on because you want to enter the exact quantity you want, and you don't want the system to populate the quantity 1, and then if you didn't look at properly, you may end up you have all the sales lines with the quantity 1. So you have sometimes it could cause mistakes if you don't correct that quantity, default quantity populated. So you don't see that field on the purchases and the payable setup. So Yeah, because it's really not useful. When you place a purchase order, you want to order whatever quantity you want. You will not never want it to default to 1. Okay, so for the create item from item numbers, you could see here on the purchase and payable setup, you also have this option. And so this option is for you if you enter an item number on the purchase line. If the system cannot find a matching item number, then it will ask you like if you want to create a new item on the fly with the item number you entered or not. So maybe you don't want to turn this on because if you tap the item number incorrectly, most scenario is like you tap it wrong, right? So you don't want to system automatically create an item for the item number you tapped incorrectly. Okay, and so that will slow down your process because like if you turn this on, the system will pop up a message asking you if you want to create an item number if you entered the item number incorrectly. So it will slow down your order entry. And for the create item from description, so this for the sales side is similar because when you sell something, usually you remember the item description, then you may not remember exactly the item number. So the system, if you have this turned on, the system will ask you if you want to create a new item for the item description you entered, which the system did not find a match. So for the purchasing side, it does not have that. I'm not sure what is the reason it doesn't have it, but also because it's not very useful. If you enter description, you didn't find any match, that means like it's not like on the purchasing side, because you will always enter the you have to create an item in your system before you place a purchase order. If the item does not exist in your system, it will not be something like useful because like you don't want to create the description on the fly. When you place the purchase order, you already know if that vendor has that item or not. Then you will create an item first before you create a purchase order. On the sales side, it's not because the system, because all the item is in your system, you are setting from your system. Okay, so copy customer name 2 entries and copy vendor name 2 entries. These 2 functions are really helpful. So for on the sales side, like when you post the documents, sales documents, it will in the customer ledger entries, if you have this turned on, and you will have an actual column in the customer ledger entries, which is the customer name. And if you don't have this turned on, the customer ledger entries only have the customer number. On the purchasing side, it's also useful because that applies to your purchasing document and vendor ledger entries. And if you don't have this option, some previous version which does not, some previous business, like before Business Central, you don't have this feature. And then for Dynamic Snap, the earlier version of Dynamic Snap, you don't have this feature yet. And some customers, they may do a custom field as a flow field in the customer ledger entries or vendor ledger entries to add a customer name or vendor name to the customer ledger entries and to the vendor ledger entries. So this field is really useful. So what you can see, if you place let's go to our vendor ledger entries to take a look, and we can see if we have vendor ledger entries. We can see if we have the vendor name here, right? So you just add an actual column vendor name. If you don't have that, you don't have this vendor name, you only have vendor number. Then it's hard for you to know which company is this vendor because you may not memorize or remember the name for all the vendor numbers. So for let's continue for the sales and receivable and purchase and payables setup comparison. So for external document number mandatory, and you could see on the purchasing side, so you also have this external document number mandatory. So this means for on the purchase header, then there's a field which is called external document number. So usually when you place a purchase order, you may want to add the invoice number, the vendor invoice number, to the external document number. So if you go to the purchase orders and take a look, the external document number, just take this as an example, show more fields, and then you could see this is named as the vendor invoice number, but actually this field is named as vendor invoice number, but actually it is the external document number. So if you look at this field, vendor invoice number, vendor invoice number, field 68, okay, and it's the field 68, and also it's the purchase header, so table 38. Then if you look at your table, so table 38 and field 68, so this field is named as a vendor invoice number, but actually so previous version, some early version of Dynamics Nav, this field is called the external document number. So that external document number actually means your vendor invoice number. And so if you have that turned on, then which means system will force you, if you don't enter the vendor invoice number before you post, then system will not allow you to post. So let's find a purchase order to see if we're able to do it. I'm just gonna try to, this one is still open. Okay, so let's try if we are able to post this. There's just remove the vendor invoice number and post. You need to enter the document number of the document from the vendor in the vendor invoice number field, so that this document stays linked to the original. So it doesn't allow you to post it, right? So that external document number in your purchase and payable actually means this vendor invoice number. That's in this version in Business Central, it's already renamed to vendor invoice number. And same for the external document number on the Sales and the Receivables Setup. So most of the customers of Dynamics Nav or Business Central, they already existing customer, they rename this field on the sales header to customer PO number, because that's easy for them to understand. The external document number is not that easy to for people to understand. So if you look at the sales order, then you could see it's there's this field, external document number. On this Business Central version, it didn't rename this field, right? But for some Dynamics Nav or Business Central and user companies, they rename this field to the customer PO number to easily understand. Similar like the vendor invoice number, it's already called vendor invoice number, and but in the purchase and payable setup is still saying external document number mandatory. That means that vendor invoice number. And for allow tax, for the let's take a look here. Application between currencies. Okay, so this is only applied to the sales side, because when you have no control how your customer make the payment for you, right? Because like if you are having multiple currency in your system, the original invoice, that customer, let's say you're in the US, and then the customer is in European countries, and they place an order. So the original invoice is in euro, right? But they paid you in US dollars. So the payment is US dollars, but the invoice is euro. So if you want them to apply the payment to the invoice between different currencies, then you can set up this as all for all the currencies. If you don't, so if the original invoice is US dollars, then they must to pay you in US dollars. If the original invoice is European, it's euro, then they must to pay you in euro. Then you have to set it up as none on the sales side. But you can see this field also exists on the purchase and payable setup. So it's the same thing. For the when you make a payment to your vendor, if the original you pay the vendor in US dollar, if the original invoice your vendor sent you is in US dollars, but you paid in euro, and you want to, in Dynamics Snap or Business Central, you want to apply this payment to the invoice between different currencies, then you have to set this up as all. If you don't, whatever the original invoice says, then you have to pay with the same currency. Then you set it up as no. Okay, and so for the next field, allow tax difference. Allow tax difference. So this is allow you. So for example, you have a purchase order, and when you enter the purchase order, it's a $1,000, but when the vendor sends you the invoice, and there are some penny differences, or there are some differences due to the tax difference. So let's say there's a dollar difference for the tax. And if you want to be able to edit the tax when you invoice the purchase orders, then you can go to the statistics and make that change. So what you have to do is you have to allow the tax difference in the purchase and the payable setup, and you have to set up your general ledger setup to allow you, there's a maximum tax difference amount. So you can set up this amount, okay, in your general ledger setup. And then when you go to your purchase orders, so if you go to a purchase order, I'm having this purchase order here, then you have to make sure the purchase order status is released. If you have the purchase order status as open, then you will not be able to edit the tax amount. So let's go to the statistics and then go to the number of tax lines. So you could see if you have the purchase order status as open, the tax amount is non-editable. You cannot edit them. So that's just a release this order and take a look again. So I'm gonna release this purchase order, and it's changed to released. Usually you have to get out and get in again before you can do anything after. Otherwise, then the change you made may not take effect. So let's go to the purchase order list. I forgot which one I was using, but I'm just gonna search it again. So purchase orders, and should be this one, blue. You see this one right now, the location was blue, and right now the status is released. So if I go back to this purchase order, click on statistics and click on this number of tax lines, then you should see this tax amount field becomes editable. Previously it's non-editable, right? So now if you have a penny difference, and you can set it up like if this 58, but actually it's 60, right? So tax amount can only be modified on the invoice. Oh, sorry, I was on the wrong tab. So I'm on the general tab here. When I go to the statistics, you could see under the statistics, you have the general tab, you have the invoicing tab. So when you modify the tax line, you have to go to the invoicing tab. So now the invoicing tab is editable. So now if I want to change it to 60, then I'm able to, right? So if you have penny difference from between the purchase order confirmation you send to the vendor and the purchase invoice the vendor sent it to you, you need to adjust. You can just go to the statistics, go to the invoicing tab and click on the tax line and adjust it. So that's how you can use this field in the purchase and the payable setup. So this field is called the allow invoice, allow tax difference. So it's the same. So it works the same on the sales and the receivable setup. So if I bring up the sales and receivable setup again, then you can see this field is also in the sales and receivable setup for the allow the tax difference here. So these fields are just the order is arranged a little bit differently, but you could see this field here. And calculate invoice discount. So on the purchasing side, this field also exists in the sales and receivable setup. So on the purchasing side, once you enable calculate invoice discount, if you have a discount set up on the vendor, then once you go to the statistics, when you place the order for that vendor, and then you go to the statistics or test order page, then you could see the discount amount will be updated. So that's just add a vendor as a discount to the vendor, invoice discount to this vendor. So we can take a look. So let's go to navigate. Then we have the invoice discount set up here. Then this vendor already have 5% discount. So if we go to place an order for this vendor, we remember this is 1,000. Then go to the purchase order. Then you enter this vendor number here, and you place the order. Then just enter an item here, enter quantity and unit price. So you need to enter direct unit cost. Let's say this is the $1,000 bike. Okay. So right now you don't see the discount calculated, but these fields is non-editable. I cannot change anything here. It's not editable. Once you enable allow invoice discount on the purchase and payable setup, then this field will be becoming non-editable. So then, because you already set up the invoice discount on the vendor, on this vendor card, so if you go to statistics and then close and come back, it will refresh. So you see this percentage invoice discount percent is automatically refreshed. Or you can just do a test print, test order, and then it will go back. It will also trigger the refresh. So if you don't have that field enabled, then these two fields on the purchase header will become editable, but it's not carrying the discount percent from the vendor card. You have to manually enter it. That's a difference. So let's go back to let's close this purchase order and go back to our purchase and payable setup, and then bring up the sales and receivable setup as comparison again. So we are at the calculate invoice discount. Calculate invoice discount per tax ID. This is for the VAT. In North America, usually you don't use it. Application between currencies, already mentioned that. So I said it's the same like you see the application between currencies. I already mentioned that one for the sales and payable setup. When I talk about that, I mentioned that. Copy comments blank to order, which means if you place a blanket purchase order, and then you make order from that blanket purchase order to a purchase order to convert the blanket purchase order to the purchase order. Then if you already have comments on the blanket purchase order you want to carry over to the purchase order, then you can copy it. You can enable this check mark, then it will copy it. The same for other documents. You can carry the comments from the purchase order to the posted purchase invoice. You can copy that from the purchase order to the posted purchase receipt, and you can copy the comments from the purchase return order to the posted credit memo, purchase credit memo. Copy the comments from the purchase return order to the posted purchase return shipment. So you can copy them, enable them. Exact cost reversing, mandatory. So this, usually you do not want to enable it. If you have this enabled, then you have to enter the apply to entry numbers on the lines in order to do a return or credit memo. So if that is not entered, then system will not allow you to return it. That's very strict requirement. Think about like you purchase something, then if it's a lot tracked, and but after you purchased it, and then there are some issues you have to return. And let's say you already consumed something, you already have consumption, you already have the sales on those lot you purchased. So actually, you are not able to, when you do a return order, you are not able to return exactly the same lot for that purchase purchase for the same purchase receipt, right? So, but you still have the same item and maybe the same item in inventory, and but with other lot. So, but you are purchase return. You when you do the purchase return, you could do with the same item but with the other lot number. But in this case, because you have the exact cost reversing mandatory turned on, you are not able to do that because you have to do whatever you originally received as a return. So that's very strict. Usually you do not enable that because you have to attach applies to ID for the item entry when you do the return. Check payment when posting, prepayment. So on the vendor card, you can set up a prepayment percentage, and so that prepayment percentage will be carried over to your purchase header. And then so you have to make sure it's paid before you are able to post the purchase invoice. The prepayment is made before you are able to. Otherwise, then you have to create a prepayment invoice and then apply the payment to the prepayment invoice, and then you can post the purchase invoice. If you didn't, if it's still pending prepayment, then the system will pop up an error when you try to post the purchase invoice. So this is usually a good practice. You want to enable it because you want the prepayment to be made before you can continue the other actions. So prepayment auto update frequency. So if you can enable this, if you enable this as a daily, weekly, so the system will every day, like after the prepayment is made, the system will go through your purchase order to see which one is pending on approval, but actually the payment is already made. Then it will update that purchase order status automatically for you. You don't need to go to reopen and release again in order to release it. So it will automatically update the status from pending prepayment to release by using a batch job. That batch job is scheduled in the job queue entry. After you enable that as a daily or weekly, you will see there's an update pending prepayment sales. This is for the sales side. I enable it from the sales and the receivable setup. But for the purchase, you will see another batch job. We'll say update pending prepayment purchase once you enable this as a daily, because you could see previously I have never. So if I change this to daily, and if you watch the job queue entry, it just generate another job queue entry for this purchase. Okay, so and you want the system to do it automatically for you. Default posting date. This is a good practice. Like you will default when you create a purchase documents, you want to default the posting date as the work date. Otherwise, if you leave it as a no date, then the posting date will be blank until you manually enter it. Default quantity to receive to remainder. So after you receive your purchase order, if you partially received it, you ordered 10, you received 5, then system will automatically populate quantity to receive to the remaining 5. If you don't have this enabled, then it will not automatically populate that. So when you post the back order for the other 5, then you have to manually enter quantity to receive as 5. So this makes your job easy. The system will calculate for you and populate automatically. Combine special orders default. This is a nice feature, and that's a feature I want to focus on the purchase and the payable setup, because you don't see this in the sales and the receivable setup. The reason you don't see it because this is for special orders. It's like you don't want to carry any inventory for the items you purchased. You just want to ask the vendor send it to you, then you receive it, but you just perform the receipt step, but you don't receive it in your inventory. Then you will just sell it to a customer. So you don't, for those items you don't carry the inventory for the items. Then you have special orders. So but why we have this on the purchasing side? Because this is a function the system can use to automatically generate the purchase order for special orders. For example, you have 2 sales orders which are special order status. So let's see on my sales orders, I already have some examples. Then for special orders, let's see if this is the one. So this is, you see, this is one bike. I want to sell one bike, and on the line, I should have the special order enabled. So there's a field on the, okay, so it's not, okay, so here, there's a purchasing code and not this order. So this order, I didn't enable it. Need to find one, this one. Okay, so this one, 1005, this sales order, I have the purchasing code enabled for special order. If you look at this table, this special order has the special order checkmark checked. And then after you enable that, then select that, and then you can enable the special order. So this is 1005, it's my sales order, and I have another one. So go to the next. Oh, no, let's go to the next. So then this one is for the quantity of 10. 106 is the order number for my sales order. Then I have 10 of the basic code, and also I have the purchasing code as special order. I have special order check mark checked. Okay, so in the purchase and payable setup, once you have this feature enabled and you select always combine, which means like when you go to the requisition worksheet. So if we go to the requisition worksheet and then click on navigate, click on actions, click on special orders, get sales orders, and click on OK, because I have those 2 orders. If you remember the order number 1005 and 1006, right? They set up as a special order. One with quantity 1, one with quantity 10. It just combine those demand. That's my demand. Combine those 2 demands together, and then if you ask me to generate a purchase order for it, because I don't want to carry any inventory, I want the system to suggest me that you have to place a purchase order for these 2 sales orders which has special order set up as the purchasing code. Okay, so if you like, you can enter, if you want to place this order for combine it to one purchase order, then you can enter the order number. I can enter order number for it, and then you can confirm with the vendor the direct cost, how much they will charge you. Okay, so that's it's 2,000. Let's say it's 2,000 for this basic, and then if you like it, after you enter the order number and the direct unit cost, then you can just if you like this order, then you can just say carry out the action message, because I have the accept action message set up to create a purchase order from me. Okay, so then I will carry out the action. So click on OK, then the system will automatically generate a purchase order for you. So if we go to the purchase orders list again, then we should see a new order which combine the demand for that 1 and 10. So it should be this newer one. Let's take a look. Okay, so that's exactly the one you see. It has 1 and 10. So the basic, the first one and 10, we enable the direct unit cost 2,000. For this one, there 10,000. So that's how that checkbox works in the purchases and payable. So it will say always combine. If you don't, if you say never combine, it will generate one purchase order for one sales order. So you will always want it to, so like I have 2 sales order with special order, right? So I have one sales order which says 1, the quantity 1, another says 10. If you have this never combine, then you will generate 2 purchase order, one purchase order for that quantity 1, another purchase order for that quantity 10. We can do a test if I delete this one, okay, and I just change that setup. Usually you change that setup, you have to close and reopen. So that's just reopen this again, and then double check in our purchase and the payable setup. So if we go to purchase and payable setup, then we can see we still have this combine special orders default. We change it to never combine, right? And now we can go to the requisition worksheet. Then we can generate that order again. So when we back to the requisition worksheets, then we're going to the action, special orders, get sales orders, okay? And click on OK. So we have this two lines populate, and we still have to enter the vendor number. And so even we enter the same vendor number, it will, because we selected never combine, it will generate two purchase orders, one for quantity 10, one for quantity 1. So let's put different cost here. This one will be 1,500 and this one will be 2,000. Then let's take a look, okay? So if you like the action, then you can just say carry out action message, click on OK. We should have two purchase orders generated. So let's go to the purchase orders and take a look. So here, as you see, we have these two purchase orders. Let's take a look. This purchase order is for the quantity 1. Remember, we put the cost as 1,500. Another purchase order we entered as quantity 10, and the cost is 2,000. So that's the difference between combine and not combine. So let's go back to our purchase and payables again. And so because we select never combine, it will not combine the special orders for those two sales orders. So use vendor's tax error code, and this one is like when we calculate the tax, we can use the vendor's tax error code. Otherwise, it's gonna use the location's tax error code. So what I mean is like when you create actually. So on the vendor card, you have the vendor tax error code defined, but when you place the order, so this tax error code defined, but also you have the location code defined. When you place a purchase order, it's actually using the locations, your location's tax error code, right? So this is your location's tax error code, and because your vendor will charge you sales tax, so then when you create a purchase order, it's not going to populate the tax error code from this vendor. It's not going to populate this one. It's going to populate the tax error code from your location. So if you do want to use the tax error code from the vendor's card here, then you can enable that, use vendor's tax error code. So that's the difference. So but usually the default is use your location's tax error code. So if you have your blue location and the tax error code is different for that vendor is using Atlanta, but you are using Florida, then your blue location warehouse is using the tax error code Florida. It's gonna for the purchase order you place, it's gonna use the Florida, which is your blue location's tax error code. It's not the tax error code on the vendor card. Allow document deletion before. So this one is like for the posted documents, like right now, because I'm the super user for this database, you could see my user permissions based on your permission, right? So my user is a super user. And so I have the permission to delete the posted documents. But based on the other people's permission, they may not be able to as a default. So then if I go to the posted purchase receipts, and I can highlight, let's find the early one. I can highlight one, and then I can delete 107001. So you see it's gone, right? And so by setting this up, let's see what is the next document date. So the posting date is January 1st, 2020. So if I want, even I'm the super user, I want to prevent me to delete the document, posted the documents, then purchase documents, then I'm gonna put a date here. So because I put allow document deletion before this date, but it will not allow document deletion on or after this date. So, but I think there's some bug in the system. So because it's on the tooltip, it says the posted purchase documents. So, which means should include posted purchase receipt, posted purchase invoices, posted purchase credit memos, and posted purchase return shipments. All these document types for the posted purchase documents. But if I'm deleting from the posted purchase invoice, it does give me an error. So if you take a look, so this is with a posting date January 28th. So that is before January 1st, 2020. So it will give me an error message saying you cannot delete posted purchase documents that are posted after January 1st, 2020. This date is defined by the allowed document deletion before field in the Purchases and Payable Setup window, right? So let's say if you continue to you can disregard that. So it didn't get that document deleted, actually. 108038 is that? So let's take a look. Is that if we say okay, and then close it, and if you say disregard 108035 still exists, it didn't get it deleted. But the bug is what I'm saying, like if you go to the posted purchase receipt, find a document with a posting date January 24th, 2021. In theory, because it says posted purchase document, it should include this. But if you delete 107025, it allows you delete it. You see, 107025 does not exist anymore. I believe there's a bug here. It didn't do it for all the documents. Let's take a look on the posted purchase credit memo. So this one, if you click on delete, it did give you the error. This is good. And try on the posted purchase return shipment. So this one, you have the posting date January 27th. So it shouldn't allow you to delete, but I'm able to delete. So which means that field only works for the posted purchase invoices and posted purchase credit memos. It doesn't work for the inventory movement, for the posted purchase receipt and the posted purchase return shipments document. So it's kind of like a bug. It should include all those documents. Okay, so let's go back to purchases and the payable setup again. So if the last one you see here, ignore updated addresses. So if you have this ignore updated addresses enabled, which means like when you place a purchase order and if you enter a different address than the buy from vendor, then the system will ask you if you want to update the address. Okay, so if you have this check mark enabled, then it will automatically update the vendor address for you. If you don't, it will not automatically update. It will ask you. So let's take a look here. Because I don't have it enabled, then we can just place a purchase order for one of the vendors. So let's take a vendor number 1000. Then we can take a look at the address here, 10 North Lake Avenue. Okay, so let's create a purchase order from this vendor. And this is the purchase order for that vendor. Then we can enter something on the line and then specify direct unit cost. Okay, so then if let's say we update the address here from 10 to 20. Remember, I don't have that field enabled, so it will not automatically update the address on the vendor card from 10 North Lake Avenue to 20 North Lake Avenue, which I just entered. It will still ask you if you want to update. If I say update, okay, then it will tell you want to update existing address on the vendor card from 10 to 20, and click on OK. And if you go to that vendor card, then you will see the address on the vendor card it's changed, right? So it still asks you if you want to update or not when you try to do it on the purchase header. So if you have that ignore vendor address update, vendor address check mark checked, I just we just enabled that and reopened our Business Central. So then you go to the vendor card. Or previously we changed the address to 20. If you enable that check mark, so when you change the vendor address on the vendor card, it will not ask you anything, and also it will not update the address on the vendor card. So let's take a look. I'm going to create a purchase order for this vendor again. Then on the vendor card, I want to change the address from 20 to 30. But you could see there's no pop-up message, and then I can enter my line and do anything I want, right? So then after this, then if you go back to the vendor card, then you take a look. The address is still remain the previous one. It didn't do anything. So if you select ignore update address, even you for this purchase order, the address changed to a different one, but it will not have any effect on the address on the vendor card. It will not update it. It will not ask you to update it. It just allow you to temporarily change the address to something else. Okay, so that's how you can use that field on the vendor card. And also there are some other interesting field on the purchases and payable setup. So the number series, everything under the number series is normal, and everything under the background posting. So I have a previous video on my YouTube channel. You can take a look how you can enable the background posting. So if you have a bunch of orders you want to post at the same time, and to avoid affect the server performance, you can enable the background posting to have them post in the background, and then you can do whatever you want, but the system will post it for you. And for the archive, you can enable the when you post a purchase order, because that if the purchase order is fully received and invoiced, then it will disappear from the purchase order list. Same for the blanket purchase order and the purchase return order. So you can enable the archive for them and then select always. Okay, so another thing is this default accounts. So the default accounts, this is related to the electronic invoicing. I also have another video on my YouTube channel for electronic invoicing. Basically, it involves a third party, which is called Tradeshift, and you have both you and the recipient who receive your invoice. They need to have an account with Tradeshift. So it's not very often used. So you can just this is for the incoming documents. Then it's just automatically insert a debit account or credit account if there's a if it's a non-inventory item. But this is all for the electronic invoicing, and it's not normally used in North America due to the restrictions of like both the sender and the recipients need to have account with a Tradeshift, and also the template for the documents which can be used is very limited. So you can take a look of the other video for the limitations. Then I will just skip these two fields. So in this video, we did a comparison of the purchases and the payable setup, and also the sales and the receivable setup. I have another video for the sales and some interesting fields on the sales and the receivable setup as well. And for this, if we go back to compare them, we already gone through all the fields on them. So so that's basically we went through all these fields on the purchase and the payable setup, and you can see lots of the fields are the same on the sales side. And there are three interesting fields here. You could see like skip menu reservation. So this does not exist on the purchasing side, because for the sales side, if you want to reserve for specific like if you want to reserve your inventory when the order is placed, then you can enable, if you have this skip menu reservation enabled, like for example, you have a customer. On the customer card, there's a reserve field, then you can say always reserve. Then when you place a sales order for the customer, as long as the item has the inventory on hand, then when you enter the sales line, it will automatically populate the reserved quantity after you enter the quantity. So it's automatically doing the reserve. But let's say you want to order 10 as the quantity on the sales line, but you only have 5 on your inventory, then system cannot reserve 10 for you. So there's another 5 that you have to do manual reservation. Either you can reserve it from the projected purchase receipt or anything, like if you have transfer receipts, and which is also projected, which can meet your shipment date, you can also reserve from that. But the thing is, like, you have to do the manual reservation if you don't have enough inventory to reserve from the item ledger entries. So in that case, when you enter the line, it will ask you if you want to do the manual reservation. But some people find that notification is too annoying and they don't want to see the manual reservation pop up. They just want the system to reserve whatever available in the inventory, then the rest just leave it and then don't pop up this message. Then you can just enable skip manual reservation. So you will not see that pop-up message anymore. And another interesting field on the sales and receivables setup I didn't mention in the previous video, by compare with this, you could see it doesn't exist in the purchases and payables setup. So that field is the freight GL account number. So this field is localization for North America. It may not exist in other Dynamics Nav or Business Central versions like Word 1 or other version. So this is designed on the sales side. You will have a shipping screen. On the shipping screen, then you can go to the sales order shipping. You can see all the sales orders here if you ship from the sales order directly. And then on the sales order shipment, you can enter a freight amount. So once you have that GL account set up on the sales and the receivable, where is it? I just want to find it. On the here, sales and receivable, if you set up a GL account, then when you enter that freight amount on that sales order shipping screen, then it will automatically, when you create a sales order from it, it will automatically map it to that GL account. So I don't have a freight account here. I'm just gonna select a random one. Okay, so select I don't have a freight account here. Expenses, delivery expenses. Okay, so there's a delivery expenses. That's just put it in that GL account. So it starts with number 6. Now let's say if I want to put $1,000 for the freight and post the sales orders, and then when the order is posted, then you will see in the posted sales shipment, you will see the freight amount is added and it's inserted to that GL account you specified for this delivery expenses freight amount, and it's inserted to that GL account for that $1,000 I specified. But because this is the posted sales shipment, I haven't invoiced it yet. So if you go back to that sales order and then you invoice it, then you will see that line will be added to the posted sales invoice as well. So let's post this and just the invoice, because we didn't invoice previously, and document number, because I didn't add the document number. So that's a posted invoice. Let's take a look here. And this is the one we just posted with a $1,000 for the freight amount and posted to this GL account. That's another interesting feature for the sales and the receivable setup, but it's just a localization for North America. So then we compared everything between sales and the receivable setup and the purchase and payable setup. Then this video was focused on the purchase and payable setup. So then another thing is this field. So this field is code validity calculation. So this is used for like when you create a sales codes. And then, for example, I create a sales code from today's date, July the 17th, 2021. And I set up the code validity calculation to be 1 month. And then that code will automatically expire on August 17th, 2021, right? Because I set up this validity calculation. That's for your sales code. Okay, so everything else, all the other fields are the same. It's just one one on the sales and the receivables setup, it's used for the sales side, and the purchase and payables setup is used on the purchasing side. Okay, thank you so much for watching this YouTube video. I hope this helps, and I will see you guys again next time.